Hello everyone, and welcome to today's painting demonstration. I'm going to show you how to paint this beautiful field of flowers with rolling hills and oak trees in the background. It's a very typical California Serengeti scene, and explain my process along the way. The reference photo for this painting, or inspiration photo if you will, is going to be in my art community Discord, and you can get to that. The link is in the description. So let's start. And I'm going to start with a large filbert brush, a good amount of water on it, and the background underpainting is going to be painted with this gold color. It's quite transparent. And I am going to pay a good amount of attention to my reference photo. While I'm putting this on, I'm going to establish the values starting with the very first layer of paint. I have some light pencil down. It's reminding me what are the most important parts of this painting. I'm also going to start with the darkest values. As I build this color up on the paper, the darks will only get darker. The flowers are going to be shown in masses instead of just a bunch of dots in the background. That will make them more impactful. Down in the foreground, the grasses are going to get pretty dark, especially in the corners of the painting. But these foreground flowers are going to be white, so I'm going to try not to get too much darkness on them. We're going to go with a super late afternoon to early evening sky. The light source is going to be coming in from the left. But the sun will not be featured in this piece. Now I'm going to make sure to get all the white paper covered up. I feel like the sky is actually going to get much lighter on the left, so, and darker on this side. The clouds will have a shadow on this side as well. I think the shadow of the grasses will probably be our darkest value, and that's going to be in the foreground on the right here. Then on the left. but we're gonna pop some of the flower foliage and grass out as well and make it catch the light. Okay, that's it for our first paint layer. I'm gonna start in the sky, and I'm gonna mix some cerulean blue with titanium white for our sky gradient. The reason why our cerulean blue always has a home right next to white is you can make a nice gradient come up the side of your palette. These colors all have a very specific spot for a reason. I always mix my black because I don't like using actual black in a painting. I feel like it makes a giant void or a hole. It's a little bit more suited to my taste to have either a warm dark value or a cold dark value, depending on where it is and what I'm trying to accomplish. So that's our sky blue gradient. It's going to be a little bit warmer toned and lighter toned as we get to the left. And I'm just going to incorporate the yellow-orange that is already painted on here. I'm going to lighten up the blue as far as the paint thickness as we move across towards the left so that it gets a little warmer and a little lighter. I'm going to grab our small filbert brush. Start with the darkest part of the sky, and that's going to be on the right in the corner. Just going to loosely cut around those cloud shapes that I got going on. Working across such a small space, you are picking light colors almost every single time you go back for paint. So that paint goes a long way. Such a small space, which is kind of nice. You end up getting a lot of learning out of a tube of paint. Since I only use 7 colors, I buy the big tubes also. So it's a super value. It's going to be a little bit of ground fog, or at least I'm pretending there's some ground fog. So the horizon line, it's going to get even lighter. If you feel like there's too dark a value built up in your bristles, just don't be afraid to get that out of there. Changing the angle of my hand to get some more expressive wispies. I'm almost using completely white here, and I'm really using strong wiping brush strokes to put it on. I'm gonna have to come back and do another coat over there. Blending back over that sky color to make sure we have a smooth transition. Okay, now, before I stop touching this part of the painting, I'm going to put in some thick white on these main wispy clouds. Okay, so now some bigger blocks over our puffy clouds. Making sure to change the angle of my brush as I'm putting them on there. I will be coming back to all of this to layer up and do some blending after it dries. Okay, I think we'll leave that just as it is for now. We will be revisiting. Okay, so I think I can pull off the next step with the same filbert brush, but I am going to need to mix some green colors because we're going to need a lot of green colors for this piece. I'm going to start with cerulean blue. I'm just going to pull it off towards the middle of the palette. And I'm going to add cadmium yellow. And to muddy it up a bit, I'm going to use some of the gold on a good portion of this green. Okay, so now I'm gonna add some white up here. Make a softer color. I'm mixing these all in advance so I can just grab from them freely. These softer greens are gonna fade into the distance. This is a rather long view that we got going on. Make sure to check my reference photos that I'm mixing greens that are appropriate for this scene. It's gonna go even lighter than this, actually. Okay, and I'm going to need a darker green as well, so I'm going to use the ultramarine blue for that. I'm going to set it here. I think that'll be fine. Okay, that's probably all the green we're going to need. We're going to be painting a lot of white chrysanthemum type flowers. And then also, I believe, some warm colors, some magenta and yellow. There we go. Now we have some stuff to pick from. Trying to debate what I'm going to do with that background tree, but I think it's going to be cerulean blue, and the gold will be the darkest color back in those trees, and then I'll lighten it up as it comes to the left towards the light source. Okay, now I'm pretty happy with that selection. That's lovely. Getting lighter faster as it comes across to the sun. Now, I'm sure some have noticed that I put my light source in the upper left quite a bit. And this does help you keep track. You kind of end up having a preferred light source anyway. And if you're changing your scenes a whole bunch, you can just alter them to have that same light direction. I added a few more little distant trees over on the left side. Now I'm gonna pick up my script brush and get those branches in there. Before everything is too dry, I want them to mix in. Okay, now I'm going to jump back over to the filbert and do some blending around those areas, make sure there isn't anything weird, any weird texture from me using the script just a little bit right in there. Those brush strokes are not exactly at home. This tree shape is going to be refined later on as we add some sky holes to it. Don't worry too much if it looks like you just have giant broccoli back there. Okay, so using that distant foliage color, that distant oak tree color, you're gonna kind of start working it into the ground, to the field, just laying it down. And then we're just gonna build up in lightness as we come over to our light source. Try to make sure there aren't any hard lines between the trees and the ground that would be right beneath them. Try to make long horizontal brush strokes in the background, because they'll give the illusion that there is big areas of like different kinds of grass. And you can pull the different color greens, the softer greens that you have mixed up. Just alternate their placement a bit. See, that may have been too saturated for that spot, so I'm just gonna go over it. Something less saturated. We're about done with our filbert brush, as it's getting a little too soft and blobby for this territory. Gonna need some thinner lines. Coming down into the foreground, I can pick up some of the darker, more saturated greens. And I think now is time to switch to the flat brush. Everything can still look very, very rough right now, so don't pressure yourself a bunch for anything to look glorious. Working in layers, going back to different areas, and kind of fancying them up a bit is the plan. Gonna put that brush away. I'm gonna switch over to our flat. The sky is not quite dry. I can still see some areas of white that are drying. So I won't touch anything that's still wet. But I am going to highlight some areas that are towards our light source and add some wispies, because I might do this again. There might be a third round of that. Okay, that guy is gonna get left alone for now. Gonna continue dragging these grains down into the foreground. This is our darkest value right here. I'm just being careful not to paint over any of our flower shapes because they're going to be really bright and light. I'm making brush strokes that are going with the angle of our grasses. The main focal point here is going to be these little flowers, these little chrysanthemums, or chrysanthemum-esque flowers. Before I work on the top part here, I think I'm going to finish the mid-ground field here. So I want to overlap and not have to touch that area again. So this is good though, while this is drying, because this is going to get painted over too. Not entirely, but it will be painted over. The look of this is all going to change when I add some flower colors to it. see some areas in the trees that need a little bit of another coat. Just going to use similar brush strokes to what's there, and that'll give us some extra dimension in the trees as well. There, I'm dragging some of those shapes out. It'll set it more realistically in the seam. Okay. Now for the background flowers. I want white flowers, melon colored flowers, and white, melon, and yellow, I believe, is what I decided on. Melon is going to be a little bit easier than just a straight orange because the white is going to help make it opaque, or more opaque than just orange. In acrylic paint, warm tones seem to be more transparent than cool tones, which is why I like to work with the warms first in most of my paintings and then go cool over the top. You'll get more luminosity that way if you're using the color of the paper or whatever it is you're painting on. I ran out of white. I'm gonna need more white. Okay, going back to the flat brush. Now, these flowers are going to overlap and underlap the areas that I have designated for them. I'm going to try to mask them up a bit. Add their shadow color to the lower part of the masses, give them some dimension. And then of course when it comes into the shadow over here on the right side of the hill, they're going to be more shadowed. some white ones, white flowers. I'm gonna focus on just making interesting shapes. They're just conveying the presence of flowers. They're really out there, they're far away. I'm putting in little dots of the 3 different color blooms. Those will be the flowers that are on the, you know, the edges of these masses, of these big mass plantings. And then they're going to get bigger as we get closer. These ones are having the form of poppies. Discovered an intruder in the paint. Okay, so now I'm gonna take some green and just integrate a little bit, soften up the edges of those big areas of flowers. I'm just going to call them areas of flowers. Plots. Just to soften it up. Just to add a little bit of green into it and to fix any weird shapes you feel like happened. Start to use some vertical brush strokes as we get into the mid area of the painting. To fix any hard edges in there. Okay. I'm looking at the sky and I think it's time to do the sky holes in the trees, and those back oak trees. I'm going to use a number 1 point brush for that. Get some clean water. And try not to grab green. I'm going to try to grab the blue that we mixed for the sky. The colors that you pick up for this don't need to be exact. I'm just gonna really try to make sure there aren't repeating shapes here. Also, if you mass these sky hole shapes together into groups, they just look better. Don't make them too evenly distributed. You could also change the direction of your brush for this. I'm really trying to soften up that forward edge of the tree. I don't want it to be very high contrast. I want it to kind of fall into the distance. We already have so many lead lines going towards our focal point. We really don't need that to be a super powerful shape. So things that you want to fall away into the background, you can just put that sky blue, try to glaze it over the top, and that should send things further back. Especially if you're talking about something that's during the day, a scene that's got some light in it. going to pick up a little bit more blue for the sky holes up here in this dark area. Now, at first I was thinking like this is far too dark a value, but now stylistically I think it's fine. I think it's good because it does keep you going in this direction. I like having a darker edge, outer edge of a painting. It holds you into the middle. You don't want hard lines taking you off of the scene. Now while I'm making the sky holes in the tree, I can also add some dimension and sky holes to the, well, they aren't sky holes in the clouds because the clouds themselves are also in the sky, but you can add some dimension to the clouds right now while you have all that going on your brush. I'm just using sketchy little brush strokes for this and dragging the paint around. And see, now I got distracted with the cloud wispies, and so it carried me away towards the left of the painting. And it's dry now, so this is a perfectly okay time to do this. I'm using pretty thick paint to get the highlights of those clouds in. Okay, now I can go back to the tree. Pretty happy with that. When you slightly vary the colors that you use to negative paint your trees in, it gives it really sparkly appearance, as if the light is shifting or moving. Okay. I enjoy how the bottom of the tree just disappears right into the field. I don't want that pulling your eye. It makes it look like there is ethereal lighting or a glow happening. The sky holes are all bunched up, which is great. Love that. Stylistically, that's where I want to be. Drag that up to kind of make this tree stand apart. There we go. I don't think I need anything done to these little tiny trees here. Maybe just a little bit of softening of the tops. Just break up their shapes just a little bit. I'm gonna soften up a couple of those little shapes I just put in with just a clean brush with a touch of water on there. Okay. There, now we're done with the background and midground. Yes. Now we're going to paint around the flower shapes. With a medium green. I don't want there to be a hard line on the top over foreground, so I'm going to use vertical brush strokes. Then I'm going to gently lay the paint on top and come to our flower mass areas. Over here on the right though, it's going to be pretty dark. I want that to just disappear. That's probably as much detail as that area is going to see. Same goes for the left side. Now I just got to paint myself in. If I were going to time lapse any of this painting, it would be this part right now. It's going to take a bit. Okay, so now that all of our flower shapes are painted around, I'm gonna start adding the more expressive foliage. like a couple of dark ones and then some building up to some lighter colors. And this is what's going to go up over the midground. And I'm still using the flat brush here. I'm using back and forth brush strokes. I'm not dragging all of them off the edge of the painting, just a couple. Okay, so that is it for our dark ones. Now I will add some light ones. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to this color here. Maybe a little bit of gold too. There we go. I'm gonna go more sparing with this color. Okay, so for now, that's all fine. I'm going to let that dry. The color is going to change a little bit, and that's fine. Now I'm going to paint in our foreground flowers, the star of the show. The number 1 point brush here. I'm gonna try to do these in as few brush strokes as possible to keep them expressive. So I'm gonna do that not by painting fast, but taking my time and planning out which direction each brush stroke should go in order to fill out the form that I have penciled out, at least, so that's going to give me a large degree of confidence. It can overlap and underlap the shape that you have designated for it. Ooh, I feel like that one would be a little bit shadowed. I'm going to make a shadow color here. This one too. You can add some petals also. Don't be afraid to add petals. You can just paint right over that green that you got going on. I'm putting my shadow petals on first, and then the bright white petals after. Okay, now that most of your shadow petals should be dry, you can just add a little highlight. Not to all of them, because some of them are in like deep shadow. Now we can do the centers. And of course we're going to hit all those highlights in the white at the very end. But let's do the center, which is going to be an orange color, but I'm going to add more gold to the orange we have been using. Make it a little darker. And then I can highlight the sunspot of it. At the end. I'm going to try to paint it into the petals, paint around anything that is supposed to overlap. Okay, now a lighter yellow. Just kind of mix it in right on there because it should not be dry yet. Just don't take a bathroom break in between those two parts. You could always grab more orange and put it on, and then blend. Now, after the centers are in, if you feel like you need to, you can overlap some of those petals. Highlight anything that stands out to you that needs a little bit more pop. Just get your brush nice and clean and then get some fresh white. Okay, so some of those red flowers that are seen in the background, I'm gonna add little subtle color references to them in our grass. Just a nice light transparent version of it, but it is the shadow color, but a light application of paint. Just 3 brush strokes. A subtle impression of a flower. A poppy or whatever it is, it looks like it is. Okay, now I'm going to add a couple more little white buds, extend them out. They are going to be the shadowed version. Nice cool gray. Should be darker, maybe darker. Okay, now I'm pretty happy with the amount of white that's in the sky. I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to pump those up at all. I'm going to add some bright grass over the very top, and I think that's going to be our final step. Gonna take our softest green, add some cadmium yellow light to it. And if that looks like too clean and too fresh and too pastel, then you can grab some gold and warm up that color a bit. Okay. It's okay if this overlaps some of your blooms. These shapes are going to be a little bit more leafy and less grassy. Whoops, I don't know if I like that going all the way off of the painting. Quick, clean water, clean brush, and just make that fall in line with the foreground horizon. Okay, a couple of those are even lighter still. These leaves are making those red shapes feel more at home in the shadows of the foreground grass. I think we're about done. I think that was our final brush stroke. It's hard not to just keep on going. Some of these paintings I don't want them to feel too fussy. There's so many little intricate details. It's hard to resist. Stop. There. That's the end of it. Okay, well, I'm really excited to see how this tape peel goes because we got new tape and it's very promising. I'm still very cautious about my opinion about it, but I'm very happy with the last peel. And so I'm gonna go do that now. I hope you enjoyed this painting process video, and until next time, happy painting.